All right. Are we live? Think we're live. Welcome, my friends. All right, it's that time of the month again. Time for free feedback on music. And we've come close. We've come close to matching our record. I think the record of most submissions has been 12 in the past. Today we have 11. So plenty to stay busy with. Hello, Boyd, P3W, the enthusiast. Welcome both of you. All right, welcome everybody. So today, we're going to wait a little bit. We will wait a little bit for more people to show up. But today, I'm going to kickstart what I hope is going to be a new tradition. So one of the questions I get relatively often on the streams are people asking, where can we listen to your music? Where can we listen to your music? It's a fair question. Because here I am teaching music composition, and I don't share a lot of my own compositions. So I got to be more open about that. I got to start being more forthright with it. And so today I'm going to share, starting this, every live stream, every free feedback live stream, my goal is to share an example of one of my recent pieces. Welcome, 23. Welcome, Dan Lipan. So let's see here. Where are we? Double checking some stuff on the analytics. Good. All right, things are looking good. Welcome, Vegandis. I'm sorry, terrible at pronouncing some of you guys' names. But let's see what the post. I made a post mentioning that I'm going to share some of my music. And the vote was that I share the piece at the beginning of the stream. That way people don't feel as nervous about going first or being the first ones to be heard. And so that's what we are going to do. This is the piece I'm going to share. Some of you might have heard snippets of it. If you are a long-term fan, you might actually notice, or subscriber, you might notice this is a piece I actually wrote 2 years ago. The original sketch was 2 years ago, and you can actually still hear the original keyboard sketch on my Instagram page. Tagged on there. I wrote this for a dance troupe 2 years ago, and it was a small house band was the arrangement. And as I wrote it, I always knew that I wanted to redo it as an orchestral piece, not just piano and electric bass and drum kit and stuff. I wanted to give this a full symphonic breakdown. So that's what I did very recently. I took the themes, rearranged them into something more similar to sonata form, and arranged it for a symphony. So I'm going to ask for your feedback, and for feedback, I'm going to share a couple different things. As usual, those are the expectations, right? I am breaking a couple rules. This piece is longer than 4 minutes, but I figured I'm the one giving all the feedback, so I'm allowed to do that. And there's a story. It's a piece of program music. You see symphonic poem. That means it's a piece that has a story. It tells a story. The general story is just the idea of it follows this character named Jesse. We start off in this big concert hall. The concert just finished. Everybody's having a fun time talking about it. And as the concert hall starts to empty out, we pan in on Jessie, the only character there by herself. And the rest of the piece is a bit of a commentary on her walk home, as we get to see a character who is deeply lonely and kind of navigating the loneliness and pain that comes from trying to live a life you expect to give you meaning. That the idea that she believes that if she lives her life in just one way, that's what's going to make her happy. That's what's supposed to make her happy, kind of thing. And as the piece goes on, we get to experience a bit more of what it means to actually be more self-reflective, to understand what actually rejuvenates you, what gives you meaning, and to find a life that you should be living, not the one that you think you should be living. Does that make sense? It's a bit, I should have probably prepped something. Welcome, Lurch. Welcome, Tara. Welcome, my friends. Also, we got a good showing. Ship Shinkur in the comments. Wonderful. Thank you, my friends. So, let's kickstart my feedback. What I am requesting feedback on here is the orchestration, the arrangement, and the structure. So basically, I'm going to give you guys 2 tips. This is what I always look for my feedback. All right? Anytime, if you ever find yourself in this position where you are supposed to give feedback. All right? Tips on, not tulips, tips on providing feedback to musicians. All right? All musical feedback can be boiled down to 2 camps. All right? We have dips and we have bumps. All right? So if you imagine your music and listening to a piece of music like driving on a very beautiful scenic road, A dip is when you hit something, a pothole, and bam, you're no longer paying attention to the beautiful scenery. Now you're focused. What was that? All right. Something wasn't there. A piece of the road was missing, and that took your attention off the beautiful view, right? So dips are anytime you feel like there's something missing in the music. A bump is you're driving along the beautiful road, you look at all the beautiful different colors around you, bam, you hit a big old speed bump in the middle of the road. Now you're not paying attention to the beautiful things around you. Now you're thinking, what was that? All right. There is something that was there and wasn't supposed to be, and it took your attention away. So as you listen to my piece, I'm going to ask you to listen for dips, listen for bumps. Is there anything you feel is missing? And as you think, anything that was messy, cluttered, something that grabbed your attention that you don't think should have. So there we go. With that in mind, let's listen to my piece, and then we will dive into the 11 submissions. Here we go. I hope you enjoy it. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. All right, let's see what the thoughts are. Shipshakur, have you changed it from solo string to sing section? Let me check. I think I did. I thought I did. No, performer under here. I did not. Ah, dang it. All right, so thank you. Shipshakur had heard this before during a lesson. And nice catch. Now I want to know what it would sound like. Okay, let's do this. So viola section. I won't replay it though. Maybe we'll replay it at the end if people want to hear it. Well, it sound. But good catch, Shipshakur. Dan Lipkin says, it feels like I'm going back in time. Thank you. E-Enthusiast, a bit magical. Thank you very much. Nice energy from the snare. Love the tension tones, says Tara. I feel like a cymbal crash would really slap when the piece swoops into the brass again and it gets more bombastic. I like that idea. I'm going to write that down. Brass re-enters. And cymbal crash. And let's see here. The sudden stop, says Dan Lipkin. For me, everything was unexpected. Good. I gotta smooth that out a little bit, but it was supposed to be unexpected. It makes more sense because keep in mind this is a programmatic piece of music. It was composed to accompany a choreographed dance. So that's supposed to match a significant shift in the story. So which would be better if we could see the dance, but I get what you mean. I should probably find a way to smooth it out a little bit. Okay, Mochi from earlier says E-Enthusiast. Thank you. Cool section. Emotional. I like this. Thank you very much. Tara says a little of Hisaishi vibes in the section. Yes. So for those of you who caught that, in fact, I unabashedly ripped off one thing from Joe Hisaishi. This little section right here, 34, starting in 34, this section is literally a ripoff of One Summer's Day. I just loved his use of flute, oboe, bass clarinet, and horns to like create a swell at the end of the phrase leading to the other one. And I was like, okay, I gotta use that. It's got the nice harmony. That orchestration right there, that is 100% ripped off. The harmony is original, the melody is original, but the instrumentation is not. That's a long-held tradition in composing, though. Let's see here. Thank you, Shipshakur. Flimflammery, welcome, my friend. It's been a while. It's good to see you here. Hey, Tamashi, welcome, my friend. Let's see here. The piano section is very Hisaishi. Thank you. Yes, I've heard that people rip off musicians all the time. It's a time-honored tradition. Tamashi, can I tell you what the music is for and play it? It's an old piece that I made a new arrangement of. If you want to re-listen to it, you can just rewind the live stream real quick. It should be there. If not, I'll listen to it again at the end. But for now, new tradition started. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's dive into the main event. All right. We have 11 submissions, plus the 12th. We'll re-listen to that piece at the end for people who missed it and wanted to hear it. We have Bjark Tan requests, does the music actually tell a concept story without becoming a wall of sound effects? And is the percussion effective or boring? Nice. All right, good questions. Additional information, I composed an experimental percussion track and was wondering if I could get feedback on it. All right, awesome. Let's listen to it. If memory serves, the description, hold up, is you have the story down here. Let's see here. A person trapped inside a dream, desperately searching for a way out. As they journey through its shifting landscape, something dangerous follows the shadows. The closer they come to awakening, the closer it comes to finding them. Ooh, there we go. Let's give it a listen. Excuse me. Oh, that was beautiful. That was excellent. All right, Bjork. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but Bjork. First off, I love the soundscapes. Those little sounds in the background, especially at the end, where they're just muffled enough that you can't quite tell what they are. They're very unnerving. That's a very creative idea. A lot of the idea of anxiety and fear in music comes from unpredictability, taking things that should feel relatively familiar and making them feel unfamiliar. And so having those sound effects were in the background where we can tell they're there, we can tell they're important, but we can't quite tell what they are. That's a fantastic creative strategy. So you asked about whether this tells a cohesive story. Yes, this does a very excellent job telling a cohesive story. And I can tell you exactly why it works well with the story. Because the key to emotions and storytelling in music come down to valence, size, and energy. You guys, this is getting old by now, I'm sure, but this cannot be overstated in terms of how important it is. All right, valence, how dark or bright your music sounds. Size equals how big or intimate your music sounds. And energy equals how much movement is in your music. These are the three elements of emotion, and as such, they are the three elements of storytelling. The way you create a story in your music is you find deliberate strategies and approaches for giving an arc to your valence. If you can go section by section and say, hey, my music got a little darker here, it got a little brighter here, it stayed the same, stayed bright for about 3 sections, then got darker again, that's your valence arc. If you say this section got bigger, then smaller, then bigger, then smaller, then the biggest, and then came back down in size until the end, that's a size arc. You can have different strategies describing what happens with each of these 3 pillars. And then it just becomes a matter of applying various strategies to achieve those arcs. That's, if you ever listen to John Williams, his music is constantly shifting across at least one of these 3. If you listen to Hans Zimmer, it's the same. John Powell, Tchaikovsky, Korsakev, Mozart, Beethoven, every great composer on some level understood either directly or just inherently how to manipulate these 3 to help tell a story. So fantastic job with that. Percussion was very effective. There was a sound around, where is it? There's like a horn. Where is it? There it is. That horn. It comes in 3 quick successions. All right. Second time. Third time. And then we never hear it again. It's a really cool sound. I'm not saying spam it so we get sick of it, but it would be really cool to hear it at least make an appearance later in the piece. Even if it's just a hint where you like pitch shift it down or filter it or do something where you can bring it back. It was a very cool sound. I like that. And my one issue, the one little bump or dip, I mentioned earlier in this stream that all music feedback comes down to those 2 camps, bumps or dips. A bump being something that you hit something that shouldn't be there or doesn't feel like it belongs there and it takes you out of the music, or something that was a dip, something that was missing, and because it was missing, it takes you out of it. Around 37 seconds, you have a dramatic shift in personality and timbre. That took me off guard a little bit. I imagine if I listened to it a couple times, it would feel more natural, but there it is. So 36 seconds. All right, so you've got a chord there. What I would do if you wanted to do that is, if you want that big like appearance without sounding sudden, super simple solution, take your bass voice, like the bass line synth, or the lowest voice in that synth, introduce it before the others, but have it fade in. That's going to subconsciously prep you, and it's going to make it feel much, much smoother. That's all it is when it comes to transitions. Transitions are literally just finding, all right, how do I make sure that this is a bit more gradual? How do I smooth out the lines between these sections by making the changes feel more natural, more gradual rather than more sudden? But this is fantastic. Someone made a comment about like Lord of the Rings horror film vibes, and I can't agree more. It's very beautiful. Well done, my friend. Beautiful work. All right, so then we can cross that one out. Tara, one of my students, Tara X. Link to music, timestamp 1 minute to 5. So we'll start at 1 minute 7 seconds since it's a longer piece. Request, I do not use woodwinds for this piece. I was worried it would be way too busy with an additional section. Do you think woodwinds would benefit the piece? Is it an oversight to leave them out? I can sense a rant coming up. I'm going to rant about something here. But it will be a good rant. It'll be a good comment. This is completely unmixed and unmastered, unpanned, just raw audio, and clearly dynamics will be all over the place with different layers as a result. I have no experience mixing or working with producers on this style specifically. Do you have any advice on how to mix this piece and enhance it, specifically with the drums and guitar, to make sure it punches hard, sounds tight, and massive while making room for the orchestra? Additional information. Trying to be more brave by submitting my newest piece. I had a random stroke of inspiration, and I decided to not hold back and take massive swings or risks. I'm still working on a true hybrid style of orchestra sound design and my love of rock music. This is my first attempt at all 3. Wonderful. All right. You don't need to send. So Tara's in the comments and says it's your time. You don't need to send sheet music. Sheet music is not needed for these streams. I hope it doesn't matter that much. Yeah, there's no need for sheet music with these. They're based off sound. All right. So let's give it a listen, and we are going to skip to the 1 minute marker. Oh, I like this. Okay, I gotta stop there because that we went over on time. I know there are rules. There are rules. I'm not supposed to listen to more than 4 minutes, but that was I just couldn't stop it. Not in the middle of all that. Damn. Dude, all right, so as I mentioned, I'm gonna just shout out Tara's one of my students. Dude, you are incredible. That's wow. Definitely channeling Hiroyuki Sawano on that. That was a very well done imitation. Not in imitation, but inspired by Sawano. I could tell. Cause I also know, again, because I work with you, dude, I know that Sawano is one of your inspirations. So I don't want to make this like too like one-on-one because this is a live stream, but our last lesson, the last lesson I had with Tara, which was last Friday, we were discussing how to analyze other composers to build templates on how to write in that style and how to learn from their styles. We're going to have I want to learn a little bit more about what you found out about Sawano, because that was some incredible stuff. But Tara says Sawano's in his top 3 for sure. Definitely. Amazing. All right, but let's see what I can offer here. All right, so excellent use of structure. Fantastic demonstration of your understanding of Sawano's idiom and his style, especially with like the Attack on Titan style. The mix sounded pretty good. There were a couple moments where it did feel a little compressed. The first big moment around right here feels a little muted. It's a very beautiful, large statement. Oh, did you find sheet music for Sawano? Okay, I'm sorry. I was like, did you find any sheet music arrangements of his music? I'm getting a. I said I'd analyze Angelo Baldini and I blew him off for Sawano. Yeah, I want copies of your notes, dude. Send me your notes. I want to know what you learned about Sawano. Because this is a style I love too. So structure, fantastic. There's a couple moments that feel a little over compressed if you used compression. If not, it might just be the plugins that you're working with. It feels like it should be bigger, a bit more expressive, but then you completely blow that out of the water here with this big part over here. Where you introduce the drums, you introduce the guitar. It's just fantastic. I have to watch my language because there's 4-letter words I want to use to describe this that are incredible. But this is a family-friendly channel, so we don't say those things here. Let's see here. In terms of feedback, so the compression is one thing that could be improved. Then this moment over here, you have a beautiful use of the violin. And then it sustains. And that sustained note immediately makes it start sounding more computer generated. And it's because it's just being sustained. If I get let's do a solo violin patch. Oh, what happened to my contact? Something happened. Oh, Cubase froze. Why does Cubase always freeze during my live streams? But if you get a solo violin patch, a violin player will never just hold a pitch unless they are told against their instincts, hold the pitch, do nothing to it. That's because they want to make instinctively the note feel more expressive. Now, an expressive performance in music means, by definition, that the musician is making instinctive or deliberate shifts in volume, in timbre, and possibly pitch, meaning like vibrato, where they're doing soft shifts here to make those shifts in real time to make it more expressive. So whether they're pushing harder on the bow and then start easing up the pressure, whether they start with a soft vibrato and start adding more speed for urgency, whether they start to slowly move their bow position to give it a bit of a raspier quality. These players will do multiple things to add their own little signature, their own little sound to these instruments. There we go, it stopped freezing. So if I go over and I load a solo violin, I just play a long held note. Let's go up an octave. Let's make sure it's just the violin being played. And I can bring my dynamics down. There's all kinds of things I can do. We can just change the volume. We can change the intensity. You can add a bit more vibrato. There are things you can do to make it more expressive. And when I noticed that, being an example like a bump, like I said, all feedback coming down to bumps and dips, that was something that took me out of the music for just a moment. Just long enough to start noticing other things. So start having it get a little softer. So I would have it like start slowly fading out before you go da-da-ba-dum, so that there's more dynamic variability. That makes it more expressive. But then over here, I noticed you're also just staying in the upper range. Something Sawano does, which I don't know whether he's classically trained or not. I don't know. But something that you will find in most concertos, anything, and Sawano does it a lot, is they make full use of the instrument. The violin is more than just their top range. So especially in using a Sawano piece, Attack on Titan, Call of Silence, there at the very beginning, there's a cello or a double bass that just like starts off with a nice low register melody and then just plunges down to the very deepest levels of the instrument's range and then comes up into the higher mid register for a solo later on. It's beautiful and it uses the full range of the instrument. If you ever see like a violin concerto by Tchaikovsky or John Williams or any of the great composers, you'll notice they use the full length of the instrument. The point of a concerto is to not just show off the skill of the player, but to show off the capabilities of the instrument. What is the instrument capable of? So you can add more variety that way, especially in these very intimate moments where it's just featuring that instrument. Dynamics coming down softer. Just slowly, then bam, comes back in. Da-da-da-dum. Then go down. Do-do-do-do-do. Just keep going lower into the range. Come back up. And when you're featuring just that piano arpeggio and that violin, you can make so much more of it by just showing off what is the violin capable of. A solo on any instrument is basically your invitation to the player to show off their instrument. So don't saddle them in. Even if you do say, hey, stay on these high notes the entire time, cool, but show it off by making it a super expressive performance, okay? Because again, you want to say, okay, well, here's the limitation. You're only allowed to use this octave. Let's see what your instrument can do. That's always what a solo is. It's an invitation to show off your instrument. And what musician doesn't like to show off what they can do? Make sense? Excellent. Writing down feverishly about the range and dynamics. I don't think I used hairpins at all for solo violin. Oops. No worries. Awesome. All right. All right. OBS says that it disconnected and then reconnected. Can y'all see me? Are we good? Can you hear me? What was the last thing you heard? Excellent. Yes, yes, technical stupidities. Okay, good. So I was talking about this part, that this solo where you go ba-da-ba-da-da, and then you keep going up. That's a great moment to just start translating out. Ba 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 ba. Well, you can move your way down slowly instead of going down and then up in pitch. Just commit, keep going down. The lowest octave of the violin is a beautiful, beautiful range for the instrument. So show off what it's capable of. Uh-oh. YouTube being YouTube again, it says. Okay, no, it looks like we're good. Looks like we're good. Yes, it could. All right. Wonderful work, Tara. All right. Thank you for submitting, my friend. Beautiful work. All right. Les Higgins. Les, my friend. So Les sent several emails. Here, I'm going to say, Les, we're breaking all kinds of rules this live stream. So you all know, and if you've ever submitted music for me, you know that I'm usually a huge stickler on it. The links have to be SoundCloud or they have to be YouTube. That is a rule, all right? And that's going to continue to be a rule. I don't download things. However, Les was having a lot of issues, couldn't seem to get it to work for whatever reason. So for this time, I made an exception. It's still not a download. It's just a visiting of Les's website where they have posted the MP3, all right? But moving forward, we will be expecting SoundCloud and YouTube, just so you know. Requests. Can you give some clues to how I could have improved the instrumentation and balance? Fantastic question. Oh, 1 second. There was a question because I thought balance. I feel a rant going on. Tara, you had something that I was going to rant about. Oh yes, about the woodwinds. Would this benefit the pieces oversight? Leave them all. My rant. Very, very confined and meant to, because I've done this rant before. Stop thinking about instruments as an instrumentation. Stop thinking I haven't used the woodwinds. Could the woodwinds do anything? That's not how orchestration is meant to be. You're not supposed to go, I have a flute. What does my flute need to do now? No. You think about orchestration and arranging in layers. I have a melody. What do I need to bring this melody to life? Let's give it to the violin. Do I need to use anyone else to help support it? All right, what do I have? A counter melody. What do I need for that? That's how you approach. You approach in layers, not instruments. If you start thinking, what can my trumpet do? You've messed up. All right, because then you start to cheat yourself in arranging. You stop thinking about how the music is served by the instruments, and you start thinking about how the instruments are served by the music. I have a rant about that. Poser, mistake in orchestration. Let's see if this pops up. I have it in around here somewhere. If you want, I've got so many things. Let's go. I will not spend long looking for it because I want to get to Les's piece. Let's do playlist. You guys can see my private ones, recipes, sports science. Let's see here. Let's do, I'm going to just check a couple. All we're going to do is go to 50. Let's do 3 pages in. Okay, so we're here. Stop saying it's too late to learn music. How to use, okay, so this is around where I would have done it. This is where I was just doing clips from my live streams. Right here. The number one mistake in orchestration and how to fix it. This video is a much more in-depth rant on that topic. Look it up. Number one mistake in orchestration and how to fix it. Tabletop Composer. All right. Let's see here. Now on to Les. And that all came up because Les asks about balance. Balance is one of the 3 pillars of orchestration. All of orchestration, all of arranging comes down to separation, focus, and balance. If you can master those 3 concepts, then suddenly everything becomes much clearer. Everything sounds better. All right. And I would say I had a student recently, Heidi, and I was telling her that we had a discussion. I was like, yeah, basically all quote-unquote mistakes in orchestration come down to those 3 things. You've either got separation wrong, so everything sounds muddy and mixed up. You have a focus wrong, so you don't know which one's supposed to have the focus, which one's the foreground. Or you have balance wrong. There's all kinds of things. So this is a good topic is all I'm trying to say. Additional information. This short piece was written in memory of a lifelong friend who passed away last year. Oh, I'm very sorry for your loss. The piece tries to capture the grief of his passing, the joy of knowing him in his life, and his sometimes zany humor. He could literally change the tide of people's emotions with his intelligence, memory, wit, and humor. This sounds like it's a beautiful, beautiful tribute. There are very few things I can think of that are a more fitting and beautiful way of commemorating a friend or loved one than immortalizing them in music. Let's give it a listen. Was beautiful, Les. Incredibly touching, like tribute to your friend. I'm trying to think about. It was just very well done. I'm trying to think of things that I can provide. Structure was wonderful. Your instrumentation choice was stunning. You know how to use these instruments. You had very idiomatic uses of like the woodwind runs. Strings were beautiful. And every time I felt like I had something to say, you corrected it for lack of a better word. Not correct because there's nothing wrong with it, but you demonstrated that you already understood what I was going to say. So, for example, early on I was thinking, okay, this is beautiful. Strings are getting a bit much though. You've used a wall of strings this entire time, and it'd be nice to see you spread out, remove the strings, and then try a different texture. And then the moment I thought that, bam, you swapped it. And it was like woodwinds bouncing around. And then it took a while for that big wall of strings to come back, which is wonderful. You demonstrated that you know how to use. One of the biggest like cardinal sins of young orchestrators is the idea of trying to use all the instruments all the time. That's not how it works. Even if you look at like John Williams' like Across the Stars, is a piece I've been studying a lot lately. The very opening section, he doesn't use the full string section until like several phrases in. He gradually introduces the string section. It's same with like woodwinds. Just because you're using the flutes doesn't mean you need to use all the other woodwinds. You did a very good job with here. The one thing I would say that could help improve this is like, one, when you export the audio, I don't know what you're working with, but it would be nice to have a bit more volume on this just to make it a bit easier to listen to and find those fine details. But the one thing that you can work on is focusing on your transitions. I believe we mentioned this earlier in the first sample, is that a transition, literally you just transitions are quite simple. I have to do an actual demonstration at some point. But the idea that with a transition, you usually have some kind of glue, taking two sections of it. These are separate sections, different personalities, different material. How do we smooth out those differences? Usually in a matter of like a bar or two. Common, like not cheap, but I mean like not cheap as in like less valuable, but cheap as in it doesn't require a lot of effort, are things like a drum swell, a cymbal swell, a crash at the arrival, or like a harp glissando, or woodwinds, or strings doing a run or something. Those are great ways to like bridge and build momentum into the next section. Other ways are to just kind of say, all right, what instruments are going to be very important in the next section? Can I introduce them a bar or two earlier on a support roll? So like in the piece that I shared for mine earlier, I have trumpet playing melody for a couple bars, and then the trombone comes in and harmonizes for 2 bars before the next phrase where the trombone is playing the melody, where you introduce the instrument first and then the roll comes in for the thing. So you take those 9 parameters music I've talked about: tempo, timbre, texture, rhythm, register, articulation, harmony, dynamics, melody. You can take those and you can find different ways, like how can I gradually introduce these elements so that it doesn't just bam all appear all at once. I'll have to do a dedicated tutorial someday about transitions. I'm pretty sure I've covered it a couple times in live streams, but it deserves its own video. But wonderful, wonderful work. It's a piece to be proud of, my friend. Thank you for sharing your music. All right. Hopefully you find that helpful. Let me do here. X that out. Dead Fella. So first 4 minutes. All right. I'll say 5 seconds. If it's 5 seconds long, that's okay. Requests. Questions regarding composition. Do you think it captures the vibe? Is it too repetitive? All right. I wrote this right after the ruling party that killed students during a student-led revolution escaped the country. Don't mean to laugh. This is just taking me a bit by surprise. I forgot. Escaped the country by helicopter in early flights to neighboring India. I wrote it in my bedroom studio in Bangladesh. The ruling party killed students using their corrupt police. Many were recorded on camera by people with phones. The elite systems of control are still in place despite a government facelift. Ha ha ha. This was from July to August 2024. Wow, okay, so we have got some big feelings being expressed in this live stream, and that's wonderful. I love it, because this is one of the most, like I mentioned, it's one of the most beautiful and, in my opinion, productive ways to express grief, to process emotions, to understand them, experience them, and try to learn where to go with them. So this is going to be a big one. Now, with this, I don't mean to, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I don't have any experience with something like this. So the emotions are going to be new to me. But what I would imagine is that we're going to want a restless feeling of like a call to action, of wanting to do something, of feeling that anger, wanting to do something, and at the same time feeling powerless to have any impact. So let's see if that's what the music sounds like. Let's see if you capture that. Oh, this is not the genre I was expecting. That was amazing. I'm seeing a lot of really good comments in this comments in the chat that are hitting it on the mark. I think I'm actually gonna take. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna steal a comment from Doom Squirrel saying the pacing is just right. Every time I start wondering when the next gesture is coming, it comes. That's very well done. That's exactly my thoughts. This is very well done. You have a wonderful either instinct or understanding of structure and how music should develop over time. It's beautiful, well done. There's some crazy awesome sound designs. So around like 55 seconds. I don't know whether this is a patch, like a preset, or whether it's one that you made yourself. But there's this synth around like 55 seconds. It appears earlier and it comes later in the piece, but around 55 seconds is when I first notice it, that it sounds almost like a muffled scream. And it's just insanely well used. That one right there. Insanely cool. Now, ways this could be improved. Right now, fantastic. For whatever reason, it gives me vibes of like Mass Effect, which I love that game series. You're making me want to play it again. I might actually start a new gameplay tonight on Mass Effect. That sounds fun. You've got this great sound going. One thing that would give it more longevity, something that could allow it to play even longer or be looped, is a bit more variety in registers and textures. So this entire time, you've got the drums going, you've got the beat going, that's great. It's not until around here that we have a shift in texture. The instruments drop out. That's fine. We don't need dramatic shifts, but each time there's a new element, they all seem to live in this upper register. You got synths, you've got bells, you've got all these different things, and then every time the strings come in, every time they come in, it's always like upper register. Move things around a little bit. That's something that you can learn a lot from like classic orchestral arrangement. So again, like not just because it's an easy example to use, is the piece that I shared of mine earlier. In those first couple bars, we have the melody move all over the place. We have it in one octave in the trumpets, then it drops down an octave in the trombones, then it jumps up 2 octaves in the clarinet, then it spreads out across multiple octaves across the strings. Each time you bring those different elements, be conscious of which register they're in. You can introduce high register, high register, high register, but if you want to add more interest, throw in a low register idea, a mid register idea. 2 ideas, mid register and upper register, mid register, lower register, mid register, lower register, lower and upper, nothing in the middle. There's different things you can do where you introduce these fascinating ideas and just make sure they have a little more contrast. That's going to do so much. It's going to feel subtle. It's going to be subtle, but it's going to feel dramatic in the impact on the energy and flow of your music that it gives. Yes, tongue twisters. And I struggle to talk as it is. That was wonderfully well done. It's fantastic job, my friend. Thank you for sharing your music with us. Okie dokie. Let's see here. Moyad, another frequent submitter. Request, do you think the piano is fitting correctly in the mix? I would love to hear any other advices. Let's do it. Beautiful. Another wonderful, wonderful arrangement by Moyad. Thank you, my friend. Yes, I think the piano fits perfectly in that mix. The mix and the arrangement are beautiful. The only weird moment is around like 2 minutes. You have that beautiful cello come in, and the attack of each note, like the start of each note, feels a little snubbed, almost like you added a ramp to the expression data, but you made it a little too strong. So it feels a little out of sync with the piano in terms of performances. So you've got this combination of like a very sharp attack on the piano. You got this cello, wow, wow, wow. It's nice, but the effect is a bit jarring. So if that's an issue with the library or with your programming, I would try to clean that in, make it a little bit tighter. But other than that, this piece is wonderful. Around 40 seconds throughout this piece, you demonstrated a fantastic mastery of that important concept I talked about earlier, about those 3 pillars of emotion and storytelling in music: valence, size, and energy. You have a beautiful innate understanding of this, it seems. Around 40 seconds, your music has a very emotional moment, and that's when those 3 things shift. You increase the size of your music, and you increase the energy. With the increasing of size and energy, it's no wonder that the emotion becomes more intense. Let's listen to this part again. We'll start back here, give a bit more time. Solo piano. Tempo increases, instrument center, texture is thicker, which is beautiful. So as a quick little exercise, if you want to write more emotional music, if you want to have a bigger emotional impact on the pieces you compose, there is a very, very simple type of analysis you can do to learn from your favorite composers. Number 1, pick a piece of music you like. Could be anything. Number 2, listen to the music. All right? Now, identify the moments in that music where you feel like there's the emotional payoff. All right? Whether it's a piece by Hiroyuki Sawano, like Tara has been studying recently, or whether it's a piece like Joe Hisaishi, one of my favorites, or John Williams, or any composer that you are studying and listening to, and you love their music, and you think, this piece is super emotional, I love it, listen and then pause. At the moment where you feel like this is the emotional climax, this is one of the most emotional moments of the piece, and stop, re-listen to it a couple times, and ask yourself, what is happening across valence, size, and energy at this super emotional moment in the music? Is it getting darker or brighter? Has it gotten bigger or smaller? And has the energy increased or decreased? Once you identified what happened emotionally to elicit the response, then you can start asking yourself, how? Okay, so I know the music got much bigger in Across the Stars. In that big moment where that ba-bum, bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum, 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 by John Williams. We all know that piece. It's beautiful. At that huge emotional climax, you're like, wow, okay, first off, size. It just got massive. All right? This big emotional climax, suddenly the size like triples. Not a big coincidence. That was done deliberately. Energy-wise, at the huge climax, like, oh, we just went from like mostly sustained chords to rhythmic chords on the trumpets. Doing this kind of rhythmic thing. You're like, oh, cool, the energy increased. There's more movement. So at that big emotional climax, he increased the instrumentation, the number of octaves, the number of registers, the dynamics, and he increased the amount of movement. So that little process, all right, exercise for getting better at studying. Exercise for getting better at writing emotional music. Listen to your favorite emotional pieces. Pause at the moments you think evoke the strongest emotions. 3, identify what is happening emotionally. Did it get brighter or darker? Valence. Did it get bigger or smaller? Did it get higher or lower energy / movement? All right, so we'll say valence, size, energy. Once you've identified what is happening emotionally, try to identify the musical tools used to accomplish that shift. If the music got bigger, what did the composer do? More octaves, more instruments, louder dynamics, etc. Once you have a list of strategies, put them to use in your next piece of music until you've mastered them yourself. This is basically all analysis comes down to. Identify something cool that the musician did and then try it yourself. Make sense? Wonderful work, my friend. Beautiful piece. As awful. As always. I cannot talk today. So we've got some great feedback. E-Enthusiast says the chords are amazingly highlighted here. I love pieces where you can hear every chord change clearly. Absolutely beautiful. Lurch Sabred says that sounded really nice. Doom Squirrel says this is beautiful. The only thing I would offer is the repetitions could do with some slight variation to keep driving the interest. Mechanically, they're perfect, and the beauty is always there. Wonderful. Enthusiast says I also really like the careful and precise use of the 5 chord in minor. One of my favorite chords ever. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, let's move on to another usual of the channel. 23. 23. Despite a heavy number of key changes, does the harmony flow well? Or help with the abrasiveness of the Pokemon cries? And does the overall piece match the image in your opinion? Additional information. Here is my submission for the monthly song review. It's the one I was saying uses Pokemon cries. The point worth critiquing is I made the chords try and match the cry, and in turn, needed to make chord progressions that took the song in the direction it needed to go so it could get to the chord needed. Also, if it is possible, could you send a link to that techno song that uses the Pikachu cry for the drop? That would be epic. Also, still curious about the type of oil and onions you use in the bean recipe. I have been loving it. I now make batches starting with 4 pounds of dried beans every month. So 23 is one of the people who keeps hounding me for my Mexican food recipes. For those of you who don't know the backstory, before she passed, I was one of my abuelita's primary caregivers. Sunday was my day. She had dementia. We didn't want her going to a home. We have a big family, and so we would take shifts. Sundays were my day. I would live with her, help cook the food, take care of her. So I learned a lot of her recipes. So I gave, and then 23 asked for my recipe for the beans. That's something I can share if you guys would like eventually. It's just, this is a music channel, not a cooking channel. So for the recipe, you asked about oil and onions. I usually use a Spanish onion or a white onion, one of those two. And then types of oil, I usually use, if I can, I'll use lard, like beef lard. If not, I will use something, just a neutral flavored oil like canola oil. Something that's not going to have a strong, like olive oil is technically healthier, I hear, but it's got a very strong flavor. So I try to do something very neutral so it doesn't impact the flavor of the beans. Anyway, so you were asking about the Pokemon techno song. Let me share that one first. Pokemon Dubstep Pikachu. I have this on my workout playlist. Here it is. It's this one right here. Pokemon theme dubstep. We'll listen to the first couple minutes. Just so you guys can hear the drop. I just don't want to get copyrighted. I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Please, God. Easily one of the hardest drops in dubstep history. Highly recommend listening to the whole thing. I don't want to get copyright striked. I'm probably gonna get some kind of notification that they're gonna mute that section of the music stream anyway. But yes, recommend it. It's a banger. It's on my workout playlist. Doom Squirrel. So does this mean we can expect an ebook called The Culinary Storyteller in the near future? No, not in the near future. It'd be something worth doing because I love to cook. I'm not gonna go on a whole spiel here. I love to cook. I make my own Greek yogurt, and I use my own Greek yogurt to make my own naan bread. I make tortillas. I make sourdough bread. I love to bake. I make chicken. I make my own hummus. My girlfriend is super busy with like grad school and work, and so every week I just like make a bunch of food for her and send it home with her so she can like do her own, so she can do meal prepping and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of, yeah, I could definitely do a whole bunch of recipe stuff. I love making cheese. I love making all kinds of stuff. We're about music here. Music. So 23 has a Pokemon inspired piece. Let's give it a listen. Oh, that was fun. That's a very fun conceptual piece. Couple things. Panning is really fun. Moving back and forth. How many times can I use the word fun? Let's see here. It's a tricky piece. So there's a lot of baggage when you bring up Pokemon. One thing I would say is, if you were going to work on this, Pokemon, two things that I think of when I think about Pokemon music is, one, a constant forward moving rhythm. All right. Pokemon, even in like the sleepy kind of themes, even the ones that are like a little slower, they're always moving rhythmically. They've got that constant sense of adventure. In some level, Pokemon music is very rhythmically driven. What am I thinking? So something I could do to improve this, I think it works. I think there are a couple moments where the harmony changes feel a little rushed. So something you could do is to take the Pokemon cries and try arranging them by tune. To the best of your ability, which Pokemon cries belong to the same key. All right? Then build your music around your rhythm, constantly driving rhythmic patterns. If you really want to be baller, do 4-part voices only, just like the original 4-bit music from Pokemon. Get your rhythm going, get it playing, and then time the Pokemon cries based off key and intonation rhythmically. Every 4 bars, every 8 bars, on the 16th bar, bam, change keys. You're going to use a different family of Pokemon cries. But anytime you've got something like a Pokemon cry where it's a little more chaotic, a little extra musical, there are ways you can use your musical parameters to organize it. To say, all right, I'm going to use this Pokemon cry, so if I'm going to change chords each time I have a Pokemon cry, at least can I make it work rhythmically? Can I make it work energy-wise? What's going on? So those are two things. Tune them. Not tune them, but like figure out which ones belong to the same key or approximate key. Make it work sense musically. And there's just a couple things. I love the idea of the mallets because Pokemon music is very percussive, like I said. And there are just a couple moments where the energy slows down. I would recommend listening to a couple more pieces from the Pokemon soundtrack and just driving off the strategies used to maintain that forward momentum. Even the sleepier pieces. What tools did the composer use to maintain that forward moving momentum? Is it a predictable like emphasis? Is it predictable phrase length? What different strategies can you work with? But this is a fun piece. I like it, and I do want to see what else you can do with this. I think this is a really cool idiom. I think there's a lot that can be done with it. I want to see a fire style. I want to see water style. I want to see ghost type. I want to do all these different other typings. I'm actually wearing a very appropriate shirt for it. But yeah, I love this. Thank you, 23. Let's see here. People who have a better video game knowledge than me are noticing different hints and different quotes. Beautiful, beautiful work, my friend. All right, entertaining and fun as always. All right, let's see. So 23. Oh my gosh, how are we only on number 6? This is going to be a long stream. I'm excited for the water one. Water type was always my favorite. I was one of those like kids who always picked one type and just only did water type. I love Gyarados was always my favorite. And then Kyogre is my all-time favorite Pokemon. I believe in the 3rd gen supremacy. 3rd gen was the best gen. Ryogi. Here we go. Does the orchestration sound convincing, or are there any obvious beginner mistakes that immediately stand out? Okay, so beginner mistakes, keep an eye out for those. Is the harmonic language interesting enough, or does it feel too predictable or undeveloped? I'm going to say right now, that's not usually an issue. People seem to expect that harmony needs to be much more complex than it needs to be. It's only one of 9 parameters. So it doesn't matter if you use the same 4 chords over and over again, as long as you've got interesting rhythms, interesting textures, instrumentation choices, things like that. Music is more than harmony. But a lot of people get stuck on harmony. Does the piece build tension and release effectively, or are there sections where the energy drops unexpectedly? That's a good one to keep an eye out for, like transitions. Are there any moments where the instrumentation works against the musical idea instead of supporting it? That's a big brain question. What textbook did you find that one in? I want to know. That's a good question. A lot of times, if you think about the instrumentation, about what the musical idea is attempting to accomplish, is it supposed to be a very intimate, soft idea, but it was arranged with a big brass quintet? Things like that. It's a big brain question. And again, it's something as the composer, it's not something that usually happens instinctively, where you instinctively choose a bad instrumentation for supporting an idea. And if you had to point out the single biggest weakness that is holding this piece back from sounding professional, what would it be? Most probably expression number CC10. All right, let's see. Additional information. I'm Dan, that rookie composer from the last stream that started a year ago. This is my 5th complete piece. Awesome. I'm still learning, so don't worry about being too harsh. I'd much rather hear honest criticism than polite compliments. Thank you for your time. No worries. I'm going to be probably direct and blunt, mostly because we're past the hour. We're approaching the hour and a half marker where I typically start to lose steam. So, in that spirit, make my heart explode. Second energy drink of the day. Here we go. Oh, I love the Addams Family vibes. was fun. I always love a good like kooky waltz. Gives me Addams Family vibes. I love the Addams Family. Wonderful, super fun, and the instrumentation and orchestration is very well done. You move around a lot. This is your first year of composing. I would love to know where you've studied orchestration. What books are you using? What styles? What approach? Yeah, send me, if you don't mind, send me like a little email just breaking down what you've learned, like how you've studied, how you've taken your approach to orchestration, because that's the one I'm focusing on most right now. I'm really trying to beef up my chops. I've gotten to the point, as many of you know from my history of live streams, I've gotten to the point where I can sketch a full piece in less than 5 minutes. I can write beautiful, like tuneful, catchy melodies, cool, interesting harmonies. In like less than 5 minutes, I can have a full-length piece sketched out for like piano. Orchestration is a much more painstaking process for me. So I would love to learn how, like, what your method has been to learn this in a year. Well done. So there are a couple things that I'll point out, because you told me to be no nonsense. Around 55 seconds, you have a moment where the melody seems to run into each other. You have lots of legato ideas, and whether that's the performance of the sound libraries or not, it just all kind of mushes together a bit. It's a little bit of a crisper attack, whether you're using a melodied instrument like a marimba to play the same melody, or you could add pizzicato strings to play it. Having some kind of attack to add a bit of a crisper start to the melody would do wonders for helping. We'll listen to this. So there's that little moment around 55 seconds where you've got one phrase leading into another, but there's like no break, no marcation. So even if you just have the first note of the new phrase, bing, and hit it with like a xylophone, mallet, snare drum, something to help accentuate the start of a new phrase, it would help make that much, much clearer. You asked for the #1 rookie mistake. It's not obvious, but the biggest mistake you made here is your melody never really leaves the middle or upper register. All right? And it gets a little fatiguing. You could almost draw a straight line that the melody stays pretty much in the same 1 or 2 octaves the entire time, which for such a large-scale piece is highly unusual. There are a few moments where you double in octaves, and then you have like low brass playing. But that's one thing that lots of young composers always forget, and it's because you probably start with like a piano sketch, where you've got your melody all in like 1 octave, and then you just kind of get it in your ear like that. But one thing that's important to notice is like when you map out a melody, you hear Beethoven play an arrangement or Mozart's arrangements or anything, you hear the melody bounce around in different octaves, different registers. It moves around. It sounds cohesive because it's one melody being played. It's one idea. But you can move it around in different registers and get more movement. It doesn't have to be every single section. It's not like, oh, this phrase played, so now I got to jump to a different octave in the next phrase. But my general recommendation is, just as a rule of thumb, there are always exceptions, and this is a very broad sweeping idea, so it's not a rule, it's just a recommendation for practice, is you should never have the melody played in the same octave more than 2 phrases in a row. All right? Or I'd say more than 3. More than 3. Play it in this octave, play it in this octave, play it in this octave. On number 4, try a different octave. Drop it down 2 octaves, raise it an octave, do something to make it feel a little more dynamic. Remember, register is one of the 9 parameters of music. So make sure you use it, right? Use it musically. If you just played quarter notes constantly, that wouldn't be considered an interesting use of rhythm. If you just had one instrument playing the melody constantly, that wouldn't be considered a very interesting use of timbre in the context of an orchestra. If it's a solo piece, that's another thing, but then it'd be different playing techniques, different octaves and stuff. So why do a lot of young composers think that keeping your melody in the same octave throughout the entire piece, it just doesn't make for a very interesting register as parameter. So that's what I would recommend. But very, very well done. Your growth as a composer is tremendous for 1 year. That's insane. Self-study on YouTube videos is finally the first time I've did a full piece sketch and arranged it. Beautiful. So Dan Lepan, you are Ryogi. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. So it's mostly YouTube. What are your favorite YouTube videos? Send me your favorite videos on YouTube about orchestration. I'd love to see. All right. Well done. All right. So Kudakashi. Kuda, how do I improve the structure of this piece? I feel it ended too soon, but have no idea where to go from this point. Additional information, I also want to thank you for the wonderful work that you are doing. I am a composer from Zimbabwe, where very few people, I know just one, do orchestra music, but your programs, live feedback, and tutorials are really helping. Keep up the good work. Wonderful, thank you. I always love hearing that my videos are having a good impact on people around the world. I am very passionate about music education because I myself have struggled with music education. And it was a very difficult barrier of entry to learn how to compose, and so I try to lower that barrier for other people. So thank you very much for your kind words. Let's give a listen.
Stop programming performances. Let your MIDI play. Inside
No, thank you. That was beautiful. Kuda, I love your melodies. Those are very catchy, very well written, beautifully structured melodies. Fantastic job. Simplest way, structure wise, what to do with this? Copy and paste the tunes and rearrange them. That's very. You'd be amazed with structure. Young composers, again, have this idea, it seems, that music needs to be complex, it needs to shift, it needs to change, and to a certain degree, it does. But the elements that shift and develop are very rarely the ones that they seem concerned about. Young composers are very, very concerned about repeating the same tunes and chords too many times. Experienced composers are not. They understand that's part of the job. If you listen to Across the Stars by John Williams, one of his most beautiful pieces, you'll notice it's just 2 8-bar melodies repeated over and over again. He has introduction, A theme, 8 bars. Bum 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 ba da dum bum ba da bum 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 bum. Then he's got B theme, 8 bars. Then he just has a transition and he repeats A theme, B theme. Then he repeats A theme, B theme. He just the 2 themes repeated over and over and over again. And what changes are the arrangements. What changes are the valence, the size, and the energy. If you are building a piece, don't be afraid to just repeat the same themes several times. But what shifts are the way you dress them up. Maybe you have a statement that's very intimate, just an oboe, a couple strings, and a harp. And then the next section, more of the strings join the play, a flute joins, and a clarinet plays, and they introduce and they get larger. And then we have a transition back to the harps and strings again with the woodwinds thrown in. And then there's a big statement to the melody and octaves across strings, woodwinds, and there's a harp going crazy. Violas are playing an arpeggio. And then you play it again, and there's brass brought to the mix. And that's basically what John Williams does for Across the Stars. All right? It's the same themes over and over again, and he just does that commencement, like that development with the instruments. You have multiple different ideas. Melody and harmony are only 2 parameters of music. You have 9. So with this idea, what I would recommend, you've got it good, copy and paste the melody and chord progression, and then just develop them instrumentally. Try different arrangements. And one way to learn, if you want to learn more about musical structure, Pick one of your favorite pieces. Listen to it and break down the structure. All right, so is this, okay, I hear this melody for the first time. That's my melody A. Oh, we've got a new melody. That's melody B. Oh, melody A came back again. Okay, there's melody A again. Melody B, melody B. Oh, new idea. I'm going to call this melody C. Basically do that. Just write down how many melodies are there and what order do they appear in. How many themes do you recognize? And what order do they appear in? All right, next. Once you have identified the structure, scroll down a little bit, map the valence size and energy. What happens in each section? Does it get brighter, darker, stay the same? Bigger, smaller, stay the same? Higher energy, lower energy, stay the same? What strategies are used to contribute to each shift or change? You can also ask yourself, what layers do you hear? Melody, chords, counter melody, etc. What instruments play each layer? This little process right here is going to help you learn so much about musical structure and how you can apply it in your own pieces. That's my recommendation. This is one of the most simple applications you can use for analysis, and it makes it very helpful to kind of learn. Moving on, we have 3 more submissions, and then for those who were not here for my piece earlier, if you want to hear my piece again, I can play it again at the end. Shipshankar, another one of my students, wonderful submissions in the past, asks just general feedback on harmony, general feedback on orchestra, and how is it? Additional notes, this is the National Song of India. I arranged it for the orchestra years ago when I was still figuring out orchestration and harmony, and I had to submit this, and I arranged it in 2 hours. That is impressive. Let's give it a listen. That is wonderful, especially for such a short piece, where you had like such a short amount of time to work on that. Very impressive. Couple things. As usual, transitions are the big ones here. There are a couple sudden, abrupt transitions. Those are a bit of bumps in the orchestration where it just kind of takes you out of the music a little bit. And something you do very well near the end, but could be used a little bit more in the beginning, is having a bit more deliberate shifts in textures. Again, this is where it becomes very helpful to map out the valence size and energy of your structure. That's something I do with all of my arrangements, is starting out, where do I want to get bigger? Where do I want to get smaller? Where do I want to get higher energy? Where do I want to decrease it? And most importantly, which strategies and types of accompaniment can I use to work with to accomplish that? But I'm going to be honest, my brain is a little fried at this point. It's beautiful. That was my main thing. Transitions could be helped a little bit. Sorry, I don't have much more to offer than that. But well done, as always, Shipshinkur. All right, let's see here. Let's get through the comments. Dan Lepan, recently you are my main source of education, but I take bits of education here and there from various composers like Tom Schipper, Ryan Leach, Mattia Chiappa, G. Trechikov, and many others. That is awesome. A couple of those names I recognize. Fantastic. I do want to check out some of their stuff on orchestration. This is very, very good. If you haven't seen Michael Whitaker, Witty Music, his teaching really helped me a lot. I'm going to look that. I'm going to write these down. Let's see. All right, because I do want to. I'm like I said, right now I am devouring content on orchestration because I want to absolutely master it. Let's see. Michael Whitaker, Witty Music. I'll check. Thank you. Also, recently bought Master the Score course, so I hope that will help too. Master the Score. I've liked Master the Score. I've done a couple of their classes. They used to have like they used to have a program where they would like invite different channels to review their classes. So I did like a piece on their hybrid music, a bit on their mixing, and I wanted to take more of their classes, but then they discontinued the review thing, so I haven't been able. And I haven't purchased any of them. But yeah, their classes are usually pretty good. Actually bought the course and both pillars of composition. There was a sale till July 23rd. Okay, awesome. It's sounds great and grand. Wonderful. Don't people use that word? Wonderful. Awesome. Let's see. E-Enthusiast. Did I strike a good balance between the old established and the new fresh elements in the song? I also want you to say something about the visual part of this black MIDI, because that was the aspect I spent the overwhelming majority of the time on. A simple "that's very nice" or "no, not my cup of tea" or something like that would suffice. Additional information, this is a black MIDI I worked on for the last 7 months. I tried to use one melody / one motif throughout the entire song and added little changes and twists as it progresses. This should be fun. Let's give it a listen and a view. I like the little logo. This is impressive. That was trippy. All right, that was something. You definitely cheated or something with like zero velocity. Or I don't know if there's layering or something there because this was not what was being played. But I respect the hell out of the amount of time it must have taken to apply each of these things to combine multiple art forms. There's the idea of the visual art form, the music. You can see the difference between like different notes that look like they're actually being played versus ones that were thrown in. This is really beautiful on multiple layers. The art form moved back really fast for a bit, so it took a little bit for my eyes to adjust. But once I did, this was breathtaking. This is creative. This is very creative. I like it. Speaking musically, it didn't feel too repetitive. It seemed like you had good shifts in register, good shifts in size. The energy shifted. It was always high, but the strategies used for maintaining the high energy shifted and developed. It's a beautiful piece. Beautiful piece. And the music is wonderful, but I think the visuals are really what sell it. The music is fun, it's upbeat, but it's the visuals and it's the collection of multiple things going on here. There is a term used to describe like filmmaking. What is it? It's a not collaborative. It's a something art form, where it's multiple art forms combined into one. I respect the hell out about the amount of effort and time that should have gone into this, and it's well crafted. Visuals are stunning. Music is catchy and memorable. It's still kind of playing in my head. Well done, E-Enthusiast. I've never known much about Black MIDI, but in your past 2 submissions, it seems so much fun. So thank you very much. All right. Last one. Blank. Link to the music is right here. Requests, no requests, and additional information. So this one I remember. This one I'm going to have a rant. All right? Additional information. I struggle with making music in general. It just doesn't come to me. It doesn't matter whether I start with the melody, movement, harmony. It just doesn't. Makes me wonder if it's still worth pursuing or if I'm fit for it. My response, who cares? Not to you. Not to your experience. That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, who cares if music comes easy to you? Obviously, we all care. Obviously, we all suck. We see Mozart, we're like, that really makes me feel insecure. We see monsters like Shib Shankar in the comments saying that he made that huge arrangement in 2 hours. We see all these different things where people seem to have things come naturally to them. But that's not the default. That's not the setting. John Williams took like 5 years to write his violin concerto, and he was very motivated to write that concerto because it was inspired by his late wife, Barbara. Shostakovich took years to compose his 5th symphony. I think there was, who was it? Was it Rachmaninoff, I believe, had like a 20-year gap working on a single symphony. Composing does not come naturally to most people. Music does not come naturally to most people. No art form comes naturally. If art forms came naturally to people, then they wouldn't really be art forms. It's the struggle, it's the difficulty, it's the ability that someone can look at something and go, wow, I wouldn't even know how to begin something like that. That's what makes it worth something. So a lot of young composers these days, I don't know whether it's an impact on TikTok or Instagram or social media or just this, we're exposed to these people who put up this image of being just like geniuses and like prodigies, which is almost never the case. But we get this idea that I struggle. I can't sit down and write a piece of music within a week. And suddenly I feel like, oh, I shouldn't be a composer. This doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know if it's worth pursuing. If you don't know what's worth pursuing, ask yourself, is this fulfilling? All right? Is the music fulfilling? Is the challenge fulfilling? Because if it's not, then maybe it's not worth it. But what shouldn't determine whether or not it's worth going is how quickly you write. All right? John Williams once described what he's called the most hellish, most draining and demanding workload of his life. And you know what it was? It was 2 minutes of music a day. John Williams thought writing 2 minutes of music every day was like borderline he wanted to retire. He thought that was way too much. So I don't know. There's this idea that people are like, if I can't sit down and finish a piece in a weekend, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Of course you're not cut out for this. No one is cut out for this. We don't choose this because it's easy. We don't choose this because this is what we're supposed to be doing, or because I find I could just sit down and write a masterpiece. No, we do this because it's fulfilling. The challenge forces us to confront our shortcomings. It forces us to pursue the high of getting better. That, yes, I completed something. Do you know how much I hate composing music when I'm working on a soundtrack? Yes, there are moments where I feel wonderful. I have not worked on a single project where I didn't think I'm never doing this again. Where I've never thought, I've had plays that I've scored where I'm up till like 3 a.m. and I think I am never doing this again. Then like a week after I'm done, I'm like, I can't wait for my next project. All right? Because it's that reward of the struggle, that reward of the pain. So when you are working on a project and you find yourself hating it, you find yourself thinking, I can't stand, like, I'm not good at this. This is terrible. Just understand, you are not the exception. This is a time-honored tradition. Beethoven would cuss out his own music. Beethoven would cuss out musicians for commenting on his music. Well, Bach struggled with music. Like, John Williams struggles with music. Hans Zimmer talks about locking himself in his studio before everything. He has this funny thing where he says, everybody thinks of, he's like, I struggle so much. I am terrified at the beginning of every film because I don't know if I can do this. He talks about how he's gotten to the point now where he just stalls for time by sending his engineers off onto like adventures halfway around the world saying, hey, I need you to go find this obscure gong and I need you to like record it and sample it 200 meters under the Atlantic Ocean. And I cannot possibly start on the music until I have that. And so when everyone else is like, okay, better go on this expedition for Hans, he's in his room thinking, I gotta come up with a tune. John Powell talks about how horrific starting a new project is. Harry Gregson Williams talks about how horrifying new projects are. There is not a composer alive, unless you are a freak like Mozart, who thinks music is easy. And even Mozart went on the record. There's a beautiful quote by Mozart. He's like, people say I breathe music like a fish breathes water. He's like, they say that it comes naturally to me. He's like, I would also like to point out that no one else has logged the hours I have mastering my craft. All right? Music is not supposed to come easy. It's not supposed to be something just given and taken. It is a painstaking task that must be taken. It is a gift that must be endured. No one performing at the highest level of anything got there without a substantial amount of suffering. Like the great athletes, the highest level athletes, destroy their bodies to reach that level. Musicians destroy relationships. And I'm not saying you have to do all kinds of things to like, you don't have to like sacrifice your life to get to a level. But the idea that music is supposed to come naturally, that it's supposed to come easy, and that if it doesn't, you're not worthy, that is just so misled. Music is supposed to be a reward for perseverance. It is supposed to be a skill acquired through difficulty. All right? It does not come easy. If it came easy, everyone would be a composer. I am a big believer that anyone can be a composer, but not everyone is a composer. And that's because it's hard, it's challenging, it's difficult, and it makes you hate it at times. But that's okay. That's the crazy part. That's why composers and musicians are just kind of crazy, is we keep coming back no matter how abusive that relationship with our art is, because we love it. Music doesn't always love us back, but we love music. So that question makes it wonder if it's still pursuing or if I'm fit for it. First off, who cares if you're fit for it or not? If you want it, take it. All right? If it's worth pursuing, that's something only you can answer. Is it worth pursuing? Is this something you want? If it is, you will have to struggle for years. You will have to endure your passion and the pain that involves in order to do it. But don't let this perception of what it's supposed to be taint you to what it is. All right? I don't know if any of that makes sense. I hope it's inspirational. I hope it's helpful. All that is to say is like, No one is good at this from the beginning. And most people take years. Hector Berlioz took years. Tchaikovsky took years. Wagner took years. Everyone takes years and years of effort, and almost no one ever thinks they get good at it. It just, overnight, they're like, okay, eventually you feel comfortable with the struggle. That's all it is. Eventually you become comfortable with the struggle. All right, let's see here. Comments. Let's see here. Dan, I just imagine, what if those people had a DAW in their days, speeding the workflow from years to weeks or days? Oh, no, that's not the issue. The issue wasn't handwriting. There were lots of tools and innovations to help with that back then. There are a lot of skill sets that have been lost back then that we don't really stress as much now to help. It wasn't a matter of how quickly could you write it out. There were ways around that. Mozart wrote the Mozart, again being a freak, wrote the opening piece for Don Giovanni in like one night, and the copyists had everything ready for the orchestra in time for the premiere, because there was a matter of having teams, there was a matter of different skill sets, different kind of things, workflows. There was all that. DAWs, even today, modern concert composers usually take years. Michael Daugherty, one of the most prolific and impressive concert composers alive today, talks about taking years to work on pieces. Joe Hisaishi has been working on his concerto for orchestra for years. It's only really in film music that it's expected to have a very rapid turnaround. And there are places for that. People give Hans Zimmer lots of flack for not orchestrating his own music. But John Williams doesn't orchestrate his own music either. He does very detailed maps, but the problem is, when you've got 2 hours of music to write and 6 weeks to write it, you delegate a lot of stuff. So Hans Zimmer will be like, hey, I just wrote this theme. I created all these sounds. I got this idea. I need to keep working on other ideas. Hey, I'm going to give my team of orchestrators, I have this theme for Jack Sparrow. I've written it. This is the general piece. I just need you to do the mundane work of making it fit the scene. All right, John Williams does the same. John Williams does shorthand. He writes down, I want tuba to do the strings, and he'll write instructions to the point where his orchestrators say, yeah, we don't really do any orchestrating. We're more like copyists. But they go off and they run and they do it for him because it's a matter of time. Film composing and media music are the only worlds in which speed is valued as a skill set. Concert or art composers are allowed to take a lifetime working on one piece because the purpose is the art, not the deadline. Making music, awesome. We've got lots of great encouragement here from Tara, from Doom Squirrel. Let's see here. Wonderful, awesome, great things here. That's right, Brahms burned almost every piece he wrote at one point in his life. Yep. Composers don't usually like their own music. Lots of good stuff. All right, awesome. So, Blank, I hope you find some inspiration here. Don't be so harsh on yourself. If it's worth it, pursue it. If it's not, it's okay. Try something else. Let's give a listen to the music. Oh, this is hypnotic. Beautiful. All right, and then the thing you said that it was 1 minute long, YouTube made it 2. Beautiful. Honestly, next way to go with this, repeat it. You just had a beautiful melody, repeat your melody, copy and paste it, add a third layer. Or add another layer. Maybe a bass line, add some drums. It really can be as simple as that. Experiment, play around. This is very well done. This is beautiful minute of music. keep developing and stop focusing on I should have this much about this amount of time. No, you shouldn't. One of the professors at the University of Michigan, the chair of the composition department, Dr. Eric Santos, talked about taking like a year to work on music. It takes time to make music. So that shouldn't be you should never use a non-musical measuring stick to determine your progress in music. All right? Stop thinking, how long is my music? That's not a musical measuring stick. Stop asking, how long did it take to write this music? That's not a musical measuring stick. The thing you can use to compare your music is, compared to my last piece, do I think I improved? Compared to the previous piece before that, have I improved? That's the thing. Compare your music to your music, not anything extra musical, if that makes sense. Wonderful, wonderful piece. All right. That brings us to the end of another stream, my friends. Whew. That was a 2-hour stream. I am quite exhausted. Thank you to everyone who stopped by. Oh, wait, I said I would do my piece again. Did I? Do people want to listen to my piece again? Are there people like, is it just all the normal people? Like, were you all here at the beginning? Or is there someone here? Crazy stream. Yes, very long stream. Good one, though. Thank you. Do people want to hear the piece again if you missed it? Because I want to make sure. Let's see, posts. I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job. Okay, so yeah, no new votes. Enjoyed the stream. Okay, so Tara wants to hear it. Let's listen to it. I think Tamashi wanted to hear. I told Tamashi I would put it out. That's right. So let's listen to it again. We will close the stream with another demonstration. Let's do page view. Let's listen to this. And then if anyone has any questions, last comments, ideas, requests, that's what we'll do. We'll end with the music another time. That way we have a buffer. All right, if you have questions, comments, requests, ideas for the channel, if you want to support future videos and the development of stuff, check out my bookshop. Synthcraft book is still on sale. So is my Portraying Emotions with Music book. Check out all of my products. You can get a copy of the Realistic MIDI. It's actually this one. You want a copy of the sheet music, and if you want the sheet music and the MIDI files to this piece, you can purchase them for $5 here, because this is the piece that I'm going to be creating a realistic mock-up in the current series. You can follow along with that. Boyd, thank you, Steven. Crazy stream. I would love to hear that. To be honest, enjoyed the stream. Unrelated, but did you stop using Discord? No, I have not stopped. I am sorry. I've gotten so bad at checking Discord. I've just been overwhelmed with a lot of work lately, so I have gotten terrible at checking Instagram and Discord. I'm very sorry. I will get on next week. I've got so much to catch up on that. My apologies. Boyd, will the main book be on sale ever? Oh yeah, the main book goes on sale. Right now, I actually have a constant coupon code. If you go to my profile on Instagram, what's the constant coupon code? I have an ad. Here it is. I have an ad for the book. Oh yeah, code all caps composer gets you 20% off my book. Coupon code. So if you want 20% off this book right here on my main channel, 20% off with the coupon code composer, all caps. That's a constant coupon, always available. I run this ad every once in a while to help drive up sales a little bit. Check out my Instagram page if you haven't already. It's been a while since I've been active again, because I've been working on some good information videos. CC's data. Dan LePan. So the reason why I'm doing MIDI data and not a Cubase file is specifically because there is no CC data for this version. On my website. Oh, where is it? So for like the data, the whole point of this product is it's just the MIDI data and the PDF, because the idea is it's to help people practice. Because as I go through this series, like how to set up sound structure. I'm creating a whole series of free class on creating realistic MIDI mockups. As I do that, if people don't have a project that uses the whole orchestra and they want to practice, they can just pay $5, get a copy of this one, just the MIDI data, so that they can learn and apply all the steps that we're going to do. So here we go. Share your thoughts, questions, requests. If you want private lessons, I have a couple of spots available on my website still. Check it out, fill it out. I love teaching one-on-one. But with that, let's give a listen. Hold up. And that reminds me, Shipshin Kerr pointed out, did I use... Okay, good. So I've swapped away from soloists. That trombone is super quiet. I don't know why it doesn't push out more in this software. swapping to the violin section from the violin soloist, it dropped the notes down an octave for some reason. I'm gonna have to fix that, because it's supposed to be an octave higher in the first violins. All right. Wonderful. Thank you, my friends. Before I forget, I'm going to change this. This section is supposed to be an octave higher in the violins, which is in the very tippy top. I think this whole thing is down an octave, I think. Let's see here. Why did it drop everything so low? It took like the entire violin 1 part and dropped it an octave. You know what? I'm just gonna have to fix this later. But questions we have. 23. This has been a wonderful stream. I took today off work to enjoy it, and it was definitely the right move. Really? I think it's one of the biggest compliments anyone's ever given me. I don't think anyone's ever taken time off just to be on one of my streams. Thank you. That's very touching, 23. I'm glad it was worth it. Dan Lipkin, I wonder how much aliver it would sound if made properly in a DAW with good libraries. Delightfully, most probably. Thank you. And yes, it will. It's going to sound significantly better. I gave a little bit of a preview in the first video of my of my series on MIDI mockups, and that's what we're going to work on throughout the series, is taking this piece and making it sound much more beautiful in an actual DAW. But either way, it would sound even better with a real orchestra. Tamashi, I know the theme, but why doesn't the theme sound sad like Jesse's theme? Sounded really sad, and the piano parts feel like Korean movie soundtracks, and like brass orchestration section sounds like a Pokemon game theme. That's because of the story. So the big brass orchestra parts, those are supposed to set, those are what we call like the city theme. That's where moments where the story enters like big crowded streets in New York, lots of lively things going around, and Jesse's trying the best to put on a brave face and just kind of feel like she belongs there. That feels like her home. It's the life she wants to have, all that stuff. So it's supposed to be this big, exciting, high energy move around, and in between moments where she just kind of forced to realize that she just really doesn't feel at home. I took a lot of inspiration from a person I know personally, like a friend I know personally, who moved out to New York. They were both from the same small town, moved out to New York. And the last time I visited him, he just seemed very sad. I love New York, and I know it's a beautiful area, but he seemed very trying to convince himself that he'd made the right decision. He did not seem happy there. It did not seem like it was a good fit for him. And yet he had this image that he's supposed to think life is better in the big city. And so that was the kind of one of the pieces of inspiration behind this piece. Pokemon games themes. Dan Lipkin. I would like to know if there's a video on how to include modern instruments in orchestral mix like electric guitars. I haven't done one yet. That's something I haven't done too much. I'm sure there's lots of stuff on YouTube. Tara could probably give you some ideas with how insane his piece was today, but it's something I will try tackling in down the line. Wonderful track. Thank you very much, Doom Squirrel. Thank you, Dan Lipkin. Boyd, the musical storyteller is worth it for other genres, right? Rockman. Oh yeah, the musical storyteller is meant to be genre neutral for the most part. That was my intention. You can ask other people who have read it, make your own decision. But it's meant to be genre neutral, taught through the lens of like orchestral music and film scoring, but all the strategies are useful no matter what genre. And I think I've found some pretty good success with that. A lot of people seem to, I mean, you've seen in today's stream that there's a wide variety of styles that people bring to this channel, but people seem to find it very helpful. Doom Scroll, when you first hit the minor third in your theme, is the clash intentional? The rest of the piece is so smoothly written that kind of pops out a bit, hopefully not offending. Just curious. Yes, that was intentional. It's a deliberate clash, and again, it's just supposed to fit kind of like the introduction of the theme and the character. With this being written to accompany a certain dance, like it was meant to be a little bit of a misstep as the theme is kind of finding its own little steps. But yeah, no worries, so much strength. So we're in New York City and there are no saxophones. Unfortunately, yes. And that's because this particular arrangement was written with a very specific orchestra in mind. A friend and colleague of mine reached out and shared information that an orchestra, the director he knows, was looking for new scores and asked me to put an arrangement together for it. So I did. No idea if they'll actually use it. I should know within a week whether they will or not, because there are other composers they've reached out to as well. But this was arranged with a very specific orchestra in mind, and they do not have saxophones. The original did, though. The original small band arrangement of this did have saxophones, because we had a saxophone player in the band. There are jazz elements in this. And then the tuner, watch it, everyone. It has an amazing. Okay, so I will check out the tuner. That sounds amazing. I always love new soundtracks. Love that. Also, maybe the orchestration from Spider-Man's theme by Dan. Yes, that was a good one. Tamashi, so I yearned correctly. Yes. This song does want saxophones, but just not in this particular arrangement. Boyd, how does it go with next editions when it comes to ebooks? I always give out the free new editions. So like with this version, this musical storyteller, we're on the 3rd edition. When I came out with the 2nd edition, I sent out free updates to everyone who had ordered it. I usually send out an email. I send an email to everyone who's purchased the book and say, hey, new update. If you want the update for free, let me know. I'll send it out there. I'm going to update Portraying Emotions with Music within the year or so is the goal. And the same thing. I'm going to send out updates to everyone who got it. Anytime I update, it's just something I always appreciated when people did that for me in the past. Like, hey, I updated this. Here's the update for free. I've never really liked the whole, hey, here's the 2nd edition, but the 3rd edition's coming out. Pay for the new edition. No, I always give out the free editions, updates to everybody. Tell them to buy a saxophone. Well, I haven't worked with them yet, so I'm trying to keep the demands on the low side at the moment. Tamashi, the New York sections sound like Broadway. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. I took a lot of inspiration from George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue for those larger sections. And like his arrangements, his style, his approach, and I really enjoyed it. All right, and with that, my friends, Jim Squirrel, good Lord, I need to get an email off to you about upgrading my book. The ADHD gremlins are working overtime. No worries. There's no deadline. Reach out whenever you're ready for the update. Send me an email. I'll give you a link for a free download for the update. Tamashi, I love Rhapsody in Blue. Me too. It's one of the scores I keep on my side, on my bookshelf. It's an amazing piece full of wonderful inspiration. Thank you, Doom Squirrel. Doom Squirrel says, your first thought was Gershwin. That is a tremendous compliment. Thank you. But yeah, I believe they're supposed to make their decision by tomorrow. So fingers crossed that they go with your boy, because that would be really cool if I had not only my theatrical debut in New York, but it'd be really cool to have, because I love New York. I love an excuse to travel there. It'd be really cool to have my concert debut with a full orchestra in New York. Would be beautiful. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Yes, Tara's got the right idea. Let's sign off, my friends. Until next time, thank you to everyone who submitted. And next time, I am excited to share another piece of music with you all. Have a wonderful weekend, my friends. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.